I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? It is a great day, and I am so very excited to have my next guest on the show today. I am telling you, he wrote a book called Medusa's Lair. Now, if you guys know, I love sci-fi, love sci-fi movies, love sci-fi books. I am that. So I want to get into this with Mr. Kenneth Now I'm going to mix it. Funderburk.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly right.
I did it. I'm getting good at names nowadays. That is amazing on my end. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. So
Okay.
yeah, Medusa, we used her for that name for several reasons actually. One, because the main character, the protagonist, essentially turns into a demon, is what it amounts to in terms of her character. She was a professor in English, and in the first book, she was behind her brother who worked for the Sinaloa gang. And when he got killed, she was actually the brains, and she morphed into a criminal character who ran many of the details of the business enterprise of the Sinaloa cartel.
I mean, how do you get into fiction being a lawyer?
Well, I got into the books because a lot of things, Phoenix City has a story all its own. You know, there's a Phoenix City story back in the 50s where they killed the attorney general. They had martial law here, so you had a lot of criminal activity. And when I came back, it was a different form, but essentially I got into it because there were many tales to tell. Well, a lot of this, well, in fact, at some level, all of it is basically true.
True.
Yeah.
How?
Well, because it's dealing with, the first is dealing with the enterprise of the Sinaloa cartel, which at this time is a really big operation worldwide. And to operate that size, you got to, it functions nationally. So you have all sorts of ways in which they launder money using legitimate banks. They use every method to launder the money. And now they've grown to, they have this big, now they could probably take on a couple of nations, smaller nations, and defeat them militarily.
Oh my gosh.
So it's about that, based on a what amounts to a personal level where, you know, you have to have individuals involved on a level that it can be understood, but the characters in the book are characters that essentially existed, whose names are changed and who modified for the story, but the events are basically true.
My goodness. So you've mixed in what you know as a reality and as a truth into a fiction.
Right.
That is so cool. Okay, so wait, how did you get into writing in the first place?
Well, I've been writing briefs for how many years? 57 years.
Right.
As a lawyer. And at my age, I had so many stories that need to be told that I sat down and started writing. And then the first book actually was based on things in Columbus, Georgia, which is where I live, in Phoenix City. They're adjacent. And And the second book expands, you know, to the international and national scene. But a lot of the characters in books, well, I changed the names. That's what I did. But the events actually happened.
Mm, 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 mm.
So
Now,
I enjoyed writing.
I could tell. I could tell. I mean, briefs. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started. I mean, I started law and I was like, okay, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't. I couldn't even hack it the first year. I was out. I was done. So it's hard. It definitely is hard. It's not easy. But on top of that, you've decided to write books. So your very first book, what number book is this for you? The Medusa's Lair. Which book is this?
This one is the second book. And if it goes well, I may do a trilogy out of it.
Oh, nice.
Although at 86, if I live long enough and this book does well, I probably will.
Well, you look amazing for 86. Are you still practicing law?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Still practice law and still sing,
Mm.
still paint.
You sing?
Yes. Mhm.
Would you sing for me?
Well, if I could, I would.
Go right ahead. Which song you want to sing?
Off the top of my head, it all went out.
That's okay. But I would tell you, man, just go ahead.
When I was in first grade.
Uh-huh.
My grandkids, who are pretty good musicians, they play it every now and then. You Are My Sunshine.
I like that one.
The teacher told me if I sang that one more time, she would come throw me out. But you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Da, 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 da. Please don't take my sunshine away.
My goodness, what a beautiful voice you have.
Oh, thanks.
Gorgeous voice. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, okay, so not only do you practice law, not only do you write books, but you sing. That is amazing.
It requires churches part-time. That's how I worked my way through school and law school.
Wow.
About 35 years, I actually, on weekends, I directed choirs.
Wow.
If I could still have the time and energy, I'd still do it. I still sing in choirs. But I enjoyed it. It got me, I earned my way through school like that.
That is amazing. And now you have Medusa's Lair. Tell me a little bit about that book outside of the context of it all. So, when you went ahead and you started to write, how did the idea about this book come along in the first place?
Well, it came along just following the news.
Mm.
At the time I started keeping up with it, was when Sinaloa started getting real big. And of course, they've been after the Sinaloa for a long time, and they put their guy in jail that ran it. And the events around that are really where the book starts. The second book starts when they El Chapo in jail. That's when this started.
Mm-hmm.
And this book started when they killed Ken, who was the brother of Myra, who was the main character, main bad character, main antagonist, who, although she was in literature, she had a good mathematical mind and understood how to operate businesses. So she was sort of like the head person in the group that controlled the money for Sinaloa. And the way the story gets started in the first book, where the Sinaloa there was a robbery, a true story coming out of Pensacola. And I took that story, and it was tied to the Sinaloa cartel, which was tied to big banks out of Boston. And that's how I worked my way into the death of Ken, who was the main guy in the beginning, and picked up with his sister. And the main, of course, you got Ken and his girlfriend who got him into this fix. When you read the first book, you see how Ken meets up with this girl who, the way it happened, and you'll find, somebody asked me about the book, is it dirty, is all this? I'll put it this way, there's nothing in the books that's not in the Bible.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
So, including, if you know the Bible and you're a little philosophical, and you would pick up where I do throw religion in the book. But as a matter of fact, the second book I end with a religious thought, where our main character is on the sailboat, and Suzy, who's the girl, poses a question about the Messiah. But you don't want to hear all that, but she does, and she says, he was a smart guy. You want to hear that part? At the
I
end,
don't mind. Go right ahead.
Well, she says, and this is the following one overriding theme in the book is that evil is always with us, but it's like the tide, it goes in and then it comes back out. So it's a wave. So she brings up Messiah, Handel's Messiah, says, he was a smart guy. Messiah starts off with the tenor singing, "Comfort ye my people," right?
Mm-hmm.
The song is, "Every valley will be made high and every mountain low," which is a strange combination. We have the Prince of Peace coming, and what follows is destruction, followed by recreation, which is the refining fire. And they conclude that this is the true story of all creation from the beginning of time, and that the crime that we see and all the imperfections we see come and go in history.
Wow. Let me ask you this one question. The title, where did you get the title from?
Well, Medusa protected people from the evil somewhat. So this girl, the main girl, Myra, who is sort of running this portion of Sinaloa as a banker, really, is pretty darn evil, as evil as they get. She starts out being a professor, yet she ends up being sucked in to the world of evil and the power and what goes through the mind of the evil ones. And Medusa is a pretty good example.
Yeah.
Now, whether I save her or not, if I go to another book's a good question.
Well, that is a good question, and we're not going to give that away.
Haven't decided.
We don't need to decide right now because it just might be a trilogy, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that people know where to go get that. So where can people go get that book? Where can they go check that out?
They can go online. It's in all the online bookstores. The easiest way to find it is look under my name, Kenneth Funderburk, Medusa's Lair, or just Medusa's Lair. Medusa, there's a lot of stuff on Medusa, so there's a lot of stuff on Medusa's Lair and Medusa generally. And part of the stuff you see is my book.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners today?
No, I think they'll find that among other things, this is really a good travel book. Of everything from Boston to parts unknown in the Yucatan, which is parts of the world most people never get to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're interested in, and this is true depiction, I've sailed there on the sailboat. And I've been all those places I covered.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
And you too. And you too. And thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to have all that information in the description box below so that you guys can go ahead and go check that out for yourselves. Man, I tell you, Medusa's Lair, what? If you're not reading that, then I don't know. You don't like sci-fi. And I like sci-fi. I love it. And not only that, this is like sci-fi mixed in with reality. Am I right?
Sci-fi and the evil kingdom and the devil. And the evil ones, are they not pretty much the same?
Yes, they are.
And in fact, we raised the issue quickly in there about what is real and what's not real. That which you can't see is more real than what you can see.
And with that, we're going to leave that right there. There's nothing else to say. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
All right. Thanks.